Hi, good morning, Steph.
We're gradually tricking you to being on every day for free.
Oh, God.
Okay.
All good. Nowhere I'd rather be.
Aw, me too. Well, this is a where do we start week, isn't it, in terms of bombshells? So, January 6th committee is requesting testimony from Representative Barry Loudermilk. That's his name,
Yep.
of Georgia. He has the letter reads, he has information regarding a tour you led through parts of the Capitol complex on January 5th, 2021, citing a review of evidence, which I think we're told is video evidence or not sure, but it says the panel has evidence that, quote, directly contradicts claims by Republicans on the House Administration Committee, of which he's a member, that review of footage determined there were no tours, no large groups, no one with MAGA hats leading up to January 6th. So what does this tell you? This sounds like they and obviously he protested a lot, didn't he? They even filed an ethics complaint about this. And now it appears they have some sort of evidence.
He protested a little bit too loudly. Make your own joke there. And here's the thing. He issued that statement that didn't happen. And I can prove with video that it didn't happen. And I'm filing ethics complaints against you for saying it happened. What did he just say yesterday in some reporting, I think, by Kyle Cheney? He said, well, yeah, it did happen. I did give constituent families a tour of the Capitol, which was closed on January 5th. I don't know if constituent families...
Closed because of COVID, so people know. That's why it was unusual.
Because of COVID protocols.
Right.
I don't know if constituent families is a euphemism for insurrectionists, but think about it. When this representative lied through his teeth and said it didn't happen, and only yesterday, when he was told there's video evidence that it did happen, he changed his tune and said, it did happen, but trust me, I didn't show them anything they weren't supposed to see. Well, frankly, I didn't trust you the first time. Right. And now that you're a proven liar, I really don't trust you the second time. But Steph, what would make this member of Congress so desperate to lie to the American people about the fact that he gave a tour to civilians on the day before the insurrection? This is going to continue, I think, to break really bad for this congressman.
Yeah. Well, you made a great point on Twitter. You said part of the challenge is we have insurrectionists, big lie adherents and promoters, and Trump co-conspirators in Congress. Many of them. It makes a full, robust, overt cooperation between DOJ and Congress difficult, even dangerous proposition, very different from Watergate. That is true, right? I mean, it's... So, by the way, Norm Ornstein tweeted, I've spent countless hours over 5 decades in the Capitol. I've been in the hideaway offices of leaders of both parties, unmarked offices one could never find without advanced knowledge. The violent insurrectionists knew. How? Ask Barry Loudermilk, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and other GOP members. I mean, this seems like the first of many shoes to drop here. How did they know where the unreinforced windows were? Who took out disabled the panic button in Ayanna Presley's office? I mean, it goes on and on, right? Lauren Boebert live tweeted Nancy Pelosi's location.
Steph, June 5th is going to be lit when we start to see what those 1,000+ witnesses said. What did I say? June 9th. June 9th. Yeah. When we see what those 1,000+ witnesses have said behind closed doors, and mind you, like 1,000 of them cooperated with the investigation, and only about a half a dozen, right, the cover-up caucus, have refused to cooperate. Instead, they've chosen to bury the crimes of Donald Trump, and that will come back to haunt them by way of criminal charges, I predict. But here's the thing. People, going back to what you were reading a minute ago, people are like, why isn't DOJ and Congress cooperating hand in hand? Because we have insurrectionists in Congress.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're on the J6 committee, but every representative has staff members, and everybody talks to everybody else. And DOJ really cannot divulge what it's doing to Congress because we have insurrectionists in Congress. But you know what? We're going to get there.
So that's what you said. I read your tweets. Obviously, when you're not here, I have to live vicariously somehow, Glenn. But you said this is all about separation and independence between the branches of government. Not surprising, in my opinion. DOJ can always subpoena the transcripts. And you also said if the J6 committee investigation had taken a backseat to the DOJ grand jury investigation, we would go years without knowing what any of the 1,000+ witnesses has said. But now we'll have a front row seat to it all beginning June 9th, and all those transcripts can be used in the grand jury. So talk to us a little about that. And also you said, what are the benefits and detriments of J6 going first with the witnesses and DOJ going second? Just talk to us about this whole thing
Yeah,
up
I
to
wish
this
I had
moment.
made this. I wish I had made this point more often and more clearly in recent months, Steph, because everybody, yells and screams that DOJ isn't doing anything. That's untrue. They're doing plenty. We just don't know about most of it. And J6 is doing everything, but they can't prosecute. Why is J6 going first and DOJ seeming to take a back seat? Let me just pose this question, Steph. Would everybody feel comforted if they knew that the 1,000+ interviews by the J6 committee were being conducted by an amazingly accomplished team of federal prosecutors? They are. This is not some, bunch of congressional staffers, with apologies to congressional staffers, trying to fumble their way through a congressional investigation. This is a team of federal prosecutors headed up by Tim Heaphy, who was one of the best RICO prosecutors. He also happens to be a good friend of mine. One of the best RICO prosecutors we had in the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office. Everybody in his office they're accomplished federal prosecutors. This is basically just a DOJ investigation being conducted in a different place. So please, everybody take heart that this is not that different than if the Department of Justice had handled these 1,000+ witnesses. We're going to get there.
Someone asked you, can J6 House transcripts be presented directly to a federal grand jury, or do the same people need to be re-interviewed by feds first? And you just said hearsay is perfectly admissible in the grand jury, though I would certainly want to interview the witnesses in any event.
Yes, sworn testimony, regardless of where it was developed, in a congressional committee, before a city council, in a civil deposition, or anywhere else, that transcript can be handed directly to the grand jury and used as evidence to indict. Now, that's not ordinarily what we would do. We want first crack at the witness. We want to develop the testimony to make sure it's full, accurate, truthful, and that we could corroborate it. So this is an unorthodox way to go about investigating, but absolutely all 1,000 of those transcripts can be provided to a grand jury, and they can be the basis for an indictment.
And Jamie Raskin said something interesting, didn't he? That Justice Department may have stuff that they would like to see. You know what I mean? That it's I get it that they don't want to seem like they're coordinating with the DOJ. Right. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, didn't the DOJ say the critical thing you said? They said, for a criminal investigation we have ongoing. So at least they confirmed that. Like you said, they could confirm that without telling us details. So wasn't that the critical thing?
Yes. And if I were Representative Thompson, I would say, wait a minute, not so fast. This is our work product. We are about to put on public hearings to show the world what we learned investigating the insurrection. And you know what? We are a co-equal branch of government, so we will give over these transcripts when we want, how we want, to whom we want. But so they're flexing their co-equal branch of government muscle right now, and I understand that. And I appreciate that. They don't want to seem like they're kind of in cahoots with the Department of Justice, because they're not. They're running their own independent investigation. But at the end of the day, I believe these transcripts will go over, and DOJ will use them. You know
my theory. Liz Cheney is our velociraptor, and she's already learned how to open the doorknob at DOJ. She's already given them the transcripts. It's just my theory. Okay. You also tweeted, after inciting the attack, Trump let it rage for hours. In a real and direct sense, he levied war against the United States, see 18 U.S.C. Section 2381. However, owing allegiance to the United States, levies war against them, is guilty of treason. When they get to the top, there is certainly an interesting array of laws that would apply, right?
Steph, I had the privilege of being one-on-one with Lawrence O'Donnell last night. And he played the clip of...
That's too much sexy for me. I can't stay up that late. That's too much sexy in one place.
Stephanie Grisham saying, I watched Donald Trump gleefully watching the insurrection, hitting rewind. He was all excited, saying, look at how they're fighting for me, for more than 3 hours, Steph. He not only launched the attack, but for more than 3 hours, he let it rage uncontrolled at the U.S. Capitol in an attempt to stop the certification of Joe Biden's win. As I said last night, in a very real sense, that is levying war against the democratic process. And this is just some of what we're going to begin to see come June 9.
Yeah. Well, here's the other one. Photographic evidence from inside the White House has been obtained by the House Select Committee. At least some of the photos were taken by the official White House photographer. And that's the one Trump, of course, tried to screw out of her royalties for her own book. He sought a cut of her book. I mean, this is the problem with someone that has just been such an a-hole to so many people, right? I mean, so now they have, because they're trying to piece together all of his movements in different ways on January 6th, right?
And we're going to see photographs and maybe even video of him celebrating the insurrection and refusing to stop it. And remember, Keith Kellogg, who was Vice President Pence's national security advisor, said, you know, we kept sending people into the Oval Office or the White House dining room trying to get him to call off the attack. And we sent Ivanka back in a second time because we thought maybe she could convince him to call off the dogs, and he wouldn't. Again, that's waging war against the United States. There is no other way to put it.
Well, speaking of which, they're saying Bill Barr is in active discussions with J6 committee to appear for a formal transcribed interview. No decision has been made whether to invite him to appear in the public hearings that start the 9th. But the things we already know, Barr told Trump in a meeting on December 1st that his theories about a stolen election were bull blank. Barr also called Trump's new legal team at the time clownish. He said, I'm a pretty informed legal observer, and I can't effing figure out what the theory is here. It's just scattered. It's all over the hill and gone. But what you're going to say as a lawyer, right, is they're trying to go to intent. And what if Bill Barr, because he was such a toady anyway, just says, well, yeah, I think he really believes he won. I mean, isn't that what they're going to be asking Bill Barr? He knew he didn't win.
In a court of law, of course, you can't ask the question, what do you think about what another person thinks? All you can do is say, you can testify. I told him on December 1st that his claim of election fraud was BS. What that does, Steph, is it gives prosecutors evidence that Donald Trump, that they can argue to the jury, that Donald Trump's intent from December 1st on was absolutely corrupt and criminal, because his own attorney general, who was in a position to know, said there was no election fraud. So all of that kind of information and evidence, those are building blocks in an eventual prosecution of Donald Trump. Trust me, any prosecutor worth their salt can prove with the available evidence that Donald Trump's intent was corrupt. We just need an indictment. We just need to get into court, and we just need to argue this case to a jury.